Hello, my name is Michaela Richards, and this is Uncomfortable Conversations. Today, I'm joined by a group of mothers to delve into the intricacies of motherhood in the year 2023. Together, we'll explore the evolving landscape, examining whether certain aspects have become more manageable, and identifying new challenges. First, let's introduce our moms.
I'm Jackie Arnold. I have a 13-year-old son with special needs and also a 6-year-old daughter.
I'm Andrea Kerr. I've got 3 boys. My oldest is 8 and my twins are 6 years old.
I'm Noelle Bowers. I've got 3 kids, a 10-year-old boy, 9-year-old girl, and an 8-month-old girl.
I'm Haley Morelli. I have a daughter who's almost 1 year old.
I'm Adrienne Jones. I have a 8-year-old daughter who also has unique abilities.
In what ways is motherhood different from like what you thought it was going to be?
Harder. In one word, harder. I think you're always second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
You are thinking in the moment, is what I'm doing going to have long-term effects, good or bad? So I think for me, that's been one of the most challenging things with motherhood. There's no handbook or guide. You're kind of just trying to do what you think is the best in the moment.
Has like technology helped at all in that, and like learning, different ways to parent, or groups or anything like that?
Oh, definitely. So my son has a rare genetic syndrome, and technology has been wonderful in connecting us, especially with Facebook groups, just to know that you're not the only one out there doing it, you're not alone. So that's been just a wonderful part of our lives.
That's good. And I'll bring that question to you, Andrea. How has it been different than what you thought motherhood was going to be?
Oh gosh, motherhood is a mind bender. It is humbling. It's fun. It's rewarding. Sometimes thankless. But I will say, I think that I wanted to be a mom for so long. I mean, it took us 8 years to have our first, and so I thought by then I'd be prepared, and I was not prepared. Much less prepared when I found out I was pregnant with my twins. So I think really what's neat about it, and what's also scary, is that no one really knows what they're doing. You're never really prepared. I think every baby shower that I go to now, when they ask for advice, I'm like, don't listen to any of us. None of us know what we're doing. We are just doing our best. So yeah, I'd have to say that I echo a little bit of what Jackie's saying, is there's no handbook, there's no one way to do it. I thought there was, and there isn't. But it's been fun to try and navigate and learn along the way.
And I hear you saying it took you 8 years of trying. I feel like people always think it's more of like an immediate thing. They're like, oh, you do the deed, have the baby.
Right.
No. But I mean, it's not the immediate thing. What was kind of the process that you were going through during that time, if you don't mind speaking about it?
I channeled so much of my energy into my career when I knew that becoming a mom was going to be difficult. So for 8 years, my primary focus was getting ahead, advancing my career, climbing that ladder. And then when motherhood came along, I found myself really having to recalibrate and figure out what my priorities were. So yeah, I think at first you think it's going to be easy, that you can work and be so great and give your A game here, knowing that okay, you have to keep that same energy at home. That was tough. That was really tough. But I think that the journey to having children, and unfortunately we had a few losses under our belt. That was really tough, and we had to seek fertility treatment here in Atlanta, and I thought it would prepare me. I'd have time to soak in my expectation of what it would be like when I finally have this child in my arms, and it has been absolutely humbling. It's been fun, but not what I thought it would be like.
I'll move on to Noelle here. How did you think it was different than like your first idea of motherhood?
I had no idea of motherhood, honestly. Growing up, I was never the little girl that said, oh, I want to be a mom. It was probably in the back of my head that eventually it would happen, but I didn't have this dream. And so when I had my first kid, it was difficult. But then I thought that, all right, I got this. This is easier than I thought, but still difficult. And then I had my second kid 11 months later. And I feel you with twins, because having two at the same time, going through the same things, it was just like my hair was on fire every day. And you know, then I had those two, they got older, and I mentioned that I have an 8-month-old, and I thought, oh, I've been through this 2 times already. This third one will be like riding a bike. Absolutely not. Every kid is different, and I think that has been the realization for me, in that you think you have it figured out, but no model is the same, even if it's 2 girls, right? And so you just have to be flexible. I am a very rigid person with my work life. I have schedules, I have project management tools, all of that. And I had to get comfortable with just throwing that all out the window and adjusting to whatever the kid needed in the moment, and that every kid was different.
No, I like that you said that every kid is different, because I think it's important, you know, to know that they're all their own little, you know, personalities that are going to grow up, become adults, and even though they share, you know, your DNA or our DNA, then doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to turn out that certain way or any certain way. Yeah.
Oh, but it is very interesting when you get a mini you.
You're like, wait a second.
Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's something I would say, oh no.
Like, what have I done?
Exactly.
Which one is that?
Yes. My middle daughter. She is mini me.
And then Haley, how's that changed for you?
Yeah, so I have an almost 1-year-old. So I don't have the experience that these lovely women have of motherhood yet. It's just been almost a year. For me, my entire life, I have wanted kids. That has been my number one dream. I'm so lucky that I have this daughter, and planning to have more in the future. And for me, it's been rather smooth sailing. I hate to say that, because I know that's so rare, I think, that it's very a little bit easier, and it's more than anything I ever hoped for so far. I adore my daughter, and I'll do anything for her. It is something I didn't realize. I know it sounds silly, but I didn't know just how much time it would be. You think, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, drop her off at grandparents or leave her with my husband for a little bit and go do something for me. And then you're like, no, I want to be with her. Or it's that classic mom thing of no one can do it as well as I can. Like, I want to do that. I want someone to help me, but I also want to do it. It's like, it's a weird mixture of wanting help, but not actually wanting to accept the help.
Where do you find that support from?
Yeah, so I have, again, very lucky. My husband and I have 3 sets of parents, all local. So we have endless amounts of help.
Nice.
It's really nice. We both grew up in Atlanta. We came back to Atlanta after college. We met when I was really young. I was 18 when we met and started dating the next summer. And but we made a choice to come back to Atlanta because we knew we would get married and we'd have kids, and we knew how important that is to have family nearby.
How was that change for you coming into motherhood?
For me, I became a mother a little bit later on in life. I was like 37 when I had my first, my daughter, my only daughter. And one thing that was surprising for me is exactly how lonely it was being a mom. I had no clue, even though my friends had children. I have 2 sisters and they have a gazoo of kids. And I've seen them go through their motherhood journey. I was not prepared for that, and no one ever spoke about it. And then also too, since I do have a daughter who has special needs, that journey is completely different. And that brings a certain type of loneliness or isolation to it as well. Completely different experience that everybody tries to relate with you, but they don't, and they can't, because they haven't had that experience where you have this fantasy of the type of baby you're going to have. And then once you actually have this baby, the baby's not meeting that fantasy that you thought you had. baby's perfect in every way, but still we all have this certain fantasy of how motherhood is going to be and how that birthing experience is going to be. And it was different, very different.
As far as like stigmas with like staying at home versus being a working mom, you know, how does that impact you on a day-to-day basis, or how have you had to deal with those stigmas?
I had a corporate career in brand strategy and advertising for one of the largest companies in Atlanta. Then I went on to work in tech, and my last position had me working out of California. So I was working West Coast hours. I was here in Atlanta working West Coast hours with all 3 kids home with me. During COVID was a nightmare because my husband's a pilot. So while he's gone, I'm having conference calls while I'm making dinner, taking my kids to therapies because I do have a child who needs some extra support. And I just found that I was spread so thin all the time. I would wake up in the morning, my chest would be tight. I had this level of anxiety that I thought was normal because it became my baseline, until I realized that I could be busy, just not stressed. I wanted to know what that was like. And to your stigma of, gosh, I would daydream. Like, I cannot imagine what it would be like to just stay at home and get a break. Well, I'm not getting that break. I'm working, but working on keeping my family happy. I'm working on myself. I'm keeping a lot of plates running. But I think that I fell to the idea that stay-at-home moms have it easier. And I'm learning that that is not the case. I'm also undoing the notion I had of the mom war of, you know, they're more driven than I am, or that we're lazy, or that we have no ambition, or that there's going to be some kind of identity crisis. I haven't experienced that yet. I really feel at peace with the decision I made. I think that there's so much more harmony and balance at home. It's not for everybody, but I do know that with my husband being a pilot, that's just a decision that we had to make as a family. It's like, what, is it worth it? Is the pay worth it? Is the stress worth it? You know, a lot of the things that I was worried about, I don't worry about anymore.
I wanted to contrast with Noelle, because I know you work pretty high-powered job. How is the stigma as far as like being so on top of your game in your career and having 3 children?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of what you said resonated with me. I work in public accounting. I'm a partner at an accounting firm, and the numbers are just what they are. It is a very male-dominated industry. And so even to be a partner at a firm is a feat. But to add 3 kids to that, and a husband that works, you know, a lot of times when opportunities come up, there were times where mentors would say to me, oh, we didn't consider you for this opportunity because we know you've got the kids at home and your husband works, so we didn't want to bother you with that. And so there's almost this, they care, but it's limiting. And so I had to have some very tough conversations, and I said to them, you let me make that decision. Let me have the conversation at home and decide what we can do as a family, but don't limit my opportunities because of what you perceive to be a barrier to success. It is getting better with a lot more women going up the ranks and taking a stand and saying this is how things should be. But I try to be an example for those behind me because I have directors and staff that work for me, and they're looking to see if it's possible.
And also, Haley, I know you are also working mother, the rest of you. How in your career has that stigma been challenged, and have you tried, you know, or thought about making that decision since you've, you know, had your child in less than a year to stay at home?
I used to work in construction. I was working in construction management on the job site all day, and even then, before having kids, I knew that was not going to be a feasible reality for me down the road, because your next job site might be in a different city. There might be relocation expectations. There's a lot that could really affect having a family. And so it's crazy that even before having kids, I was making decisions for the future about my job. because I knew it was not going to be realistic. So I moved into construction consulting before having my daughter, and had my maternity leave, went back to work, and it is incredibly difficult going back to work after having a baby. It is something I think that is getting talked about a lot more, but it is, I mean, your brain, your mind, everything is somewhere else. You're not at work, but you're working. You're getting the job done. You may not even realize how you're doing it. And it came to a point for me personally that the job that I was in, I was working for people who weren't necessarily family people. Maybe they were, maybe they just, it was a man who had kids, or someone who, you know, they have a stay-at-home mom handling everything at home. So they don't, you know, it was people that didn't fully understand. I would get comments before having my baby that, you know, oh, well, my wife didn't go back to work after. It's like, okay, well, that's your story and that's your situation. I don't need to hear that, because that's a luxury that not everyone can have, or it's something that maybe I don't want. So it's a lot of listening to other people's opinions and their expectations and what happened for them. But I hit a point actually that 9 months postpartum, I switched jobs. I did not want to do that. I am still a breastfeeding mom. I'm pumping at work, and it's something that I didn't want that to be in my next career move. I wanted to be kind of done with that so that I could focus fully on work. However, I found a company that honors that and respects that, and I work with other parents. I work with people who get it. I hear their kids sometimes on our daily calls. I hear them in the background. You know, they understand. And it makes such a difference working with people who are similar to you and who want to help you through everything. I mean, even my interviews with them, they were saying, look, we've all been working together for a long time. We've all been through it. We went through the kids thing together. You know, a lot of them have older kids now, and they're like, we get it. We understand how hard that is. We understand, you know, your kid gets sick at daycare, and like, what are you going to do? I mean, it's, my husband works, and something very interesting that I found is, you know, mothers, when you go on a maternity leave, you get so used to being the parent for everything. And as soon as that's over, you're both working. However, those duties are still on the mom, I find, at least far majority of the time. And it's, you know, doctor's appointments, sick days. It's like your job is usually the one that suffers. And I'm not saying anything bad about my husband by any means. I love my husband. He's incredible, great dad. But he is a lawyer. And sometimes I think that his job just takes priority. And I know that's not necessarily the optimal thing, but you know, it's interesting. Just having to be that parent that if something is wrong, you're the one who needs to step in and do something.
As far as like working, finding the company that will, you know, allow you to have the time off, that understands that your child is going to be sick, you're going to have to pick them up sometimes early. How hard is that to find?
Yeah, I am extremely lucky to be at a firm that is family centric. We have unlimited sick policy, and that extends to the individual and their family. And so I've never felt the pressure of, oh, I'm going to have to use vacation or some other PTO to take care of my sick kid. As long as I can get my work done, whatever that project is, and I communicate, I've been able to take the time that I needed for my kids. And I realize that is a blessing. Not every company is like that. And it's probably one of the main reasons why I've stayed at the firm. Because even before I had kids, I saw other people taking advantage of that benefit, as well as a host of others. And it confirmed that I was in a place with the right culture and the right support to last the life of my family growth and the different stages.
And then Adrienne, I know we were talking about partnership a little bit earlier. How has that changed for you as a single mother? How are you, doing everything on the plate?
Yeah. So for me, it has been very difficult, and I've had to completely change my whole mindset and just concept of how much I want to give of myself to my job. I'm also an accountant. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I've always done corporate accounting, and as an accountant, it's an unsaid rule that you work a lot of hours. It's just expected. At the end of the day, and especially as you go up, become more have more seniority in your position. At the end of the day, the company wants their results. And once I had my child, and considering that my daughter she was medically fragile when she was born, so I maxed out any and every corporate company sick leave policy that anyone could ever imagine. There was one point where my daughter was on life support, and I don't know if she's going to be here tomorrow. And I was sitting there next to her, maxed out all vacation, everything, family medical leave of absence. I've maxed it all out. And she was on life support, and I'm sitting there next to her, and I have my little laptop. And at the end of the day, I just remember thinking that this is not it. No, this is not it. And I just had to change that. So the company that I worked for at that time, I really liked them, and I really liked the job that I was doing, but I had no focus. It's just no way I could have focus and really produce and give them what they needed, plus be there to support her. So I ended up having to leave that company and go to another company. And when I was at that company, I explained to them my situation, and at first they thought that they could, let's say, accommodate me, or that they had like a real family supportive environment. But I ended up leaving that company after a year because they really didn't. They really wanted me to put in those senior accountant type hours, and I couldn't do that for her sake. But eventually I had to make a choice to basically, I can't go for senior level accounting type finance positions. I have to go for lower levels because I can do them with no problem. I can get out the information to them with no issues. So that helps me in terms of time. So I know that I can, whether I'm working from home or working at an actual office, I know that I can do this with no problem, and then I'm out of the office at a decent time, and I'm able to go home and really give my daughter the support that she needs. And it just so happens the company I'm working for now, they are considered an international company. So they do have an office here, but they're international. And I have noticed that with this particular company, their work-life balance and just their whole family perception is completely different than our US-based companies. Now, of course, they want me to produce for them as well, but at the end of the day, they are a little bit more supportive in, oh, your daughter's sick and you need to go to the hospital and you don't know when you're going to be back. We understand. Just get back to us when you can get back to us, and do not call us while you're, we won't call you. Whereas I've found with the American companies, it's kind of like, oh, your daughter's sick? Well, how long do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be a week? Is it going to be 2 weeks? Are you going to ever come back? But kind of with them there, it's just a little bit more supportive. Take care of your business, and then once you take care of your personal life, you come back and we'll be here for you, and we'll go from there. So I can say that.
One thing that you mentioned that I think all of us said is the sacrifice. And I'm sure every one of us have made a sacrifice or 2 or 3, but we don't talk about it. You just do it, right? This is what your child needs in the moment or for several moments, and you just do it, and you don't ask for a thank you or acknowledgement for it. You just make those sacrifices over and over again.
And my daughter's father, he's also an accountant. And one thing that's kind of still hard to do is watch him progress in his career.
Yes.
Whereas I'm kind of, well, I had to step back.
Yeah.
And then basically my current employer, they know that I really don't want to progress past this position. I'll help you guys and support you in any kind of way. So you're going to get a good, you're going to get a bang for your buck with me. But watching him progress in his career, it's been a little hard. It's been a little hard because I already know that if the situation was different, I would have surpassed him.
Yeah.
In terms of what he's doing. But that's been kind of hard, just watching him progress in his career where I have to kind of stay back. But it's worth it.
A lot of like studies, will say like being married in a heteronormative relationship, it usually doesn't help you out that much as far as like the workload. How have your partners helped you? I'm sorry, you, Jackie?
Well, it's been so interesting hearing their perspectives because I have a little bit different background. I was a teacher for 8 years.
Yeah.
And then after my son's diagnosis and some medical complications, we decided it was best for me to stay home. So at the time, my husband and I were kind of equal footing, job-wise, but it just, fell on me, and I wanted to do that. So that was back in about 2013. So since then, I've been home. So looking back, it's kind of crazy that I have now been home longer than I taught. But over that time, I think I've tried to still stay relevant in any way that I could. So in this time, I've substitute taught. I've done group fitness classes. I've taught online English to kids in China. I've now started a business doing health coaching for special needs moms. So it's like always trying to do something to make sure that I'm contributing in some way, whether that's financially or just having something for myself. But I think even trying to do those things, you still have all of the other responsibilities, that mental load. I think you guys all understand that, just the scheduling, all the invisible labor that's going on that no one sees, the keeping track of appointments, whose birthday's coming up, all of those things. So even though I would say like the physical tasks at home are pretty equal, it's definitely kind of that dominant parent. I don't know if you know that term, like you take on more.
Yeah. I think that partnership of being with someone who understands it maybe is more important than someone that is doing it all. Gets it, sees you, feels you. Like, I think that when he's home, the kids also see him as a shiny object. I am chopped liver at that point because they've had so much of me that they tend to fall apart with me. They don't fall apart with him. They see me as the default. And while it is an honor, I think that I'm getting a version of them that is very different than the version that my husband is getting. Like, he's home and it's all is right with the world and let's go do fun things. And he's the fun parent because when he's there, they get to do all these fun things and we all get to do it together. But being the default parent is rewarding. I'm in tune with everything that's going on with their lives, right? That's great. And I was in tune when I was working, but more so now. I'm paying attention to the fact that my kid is drawing his sixes backwards. Do I need to help him, right? And when I was working, it was, his homework is done, we're good, run. And so I think that I'm much more in tune than I was before. But there are things that my husband just does not know about. We both have our contact information with the doctor's offices. So if a doctor's trying to get a hold of me, they would typically call me. And I was waiting on some results for my son. And they had not followed up with me. I'd asked them several times to call me back. Where are you? What's going on? And they called me back and said, yeah, I had left several messages with a number, and it was my husband's. And so I asked my husband, did you know they were trying to get a hold of you? He said, why are they calling me?
Wow.
And that's just an anecdote of, they're calling you because that's your child. That's your child. It's just as much as it is my child, But I think that's, in all fairness, he felt terrible. I think as soon as he said that, he's like, okay, I'm going to walk that back. But I do think that being the default exists. I don't know why we assume the roles that we do. I think maybe we've seen our parents do it. I think we've seen other women do it, and we just fall into it subconsciously, I think. Undoing that is awesome, because I think that finding that equilibrium and that harmony, I'm not going to say balance, I'm not going to say that it's 50-50 for everyone, but I will say finding what works for us may look different from those of us here.
But I go back to what you said about you want to do it. Like, I want to arrange the doctor's appointments because I want them to be done when it's convenient for me, just in case I'm the one that has to take them.
And you know what's going on.
You know what's going on.
You know what's going on.
So, like, part of me is like, I proudly wear that house manager badge.
Yes, I do
I have
too.
all the appointments, and we have this really cute acrylic calendar in our keeping room that nobody looks at but me. But I write in it because I like, you know, hey, it was on the calendar, you didn't see it, but it's that thought that I could ask for help and I probably would get it, but it's not going to be done the way that I want it to be done, so maybe I should just do it myself.
I feel you. I feel you.
And I know you said in your house you guys try to be more 50-50, have conversations about, you know, really important decisions in the household. How else does he help you as far as like planning, as far as your kids?
So I say 50-50, but I want to make it clear that it's not 50-50 in everything, meaning I personally could go like 3 weeks, maybe 4, without washing clothes, because like I just buy more underwear. Right? I'm too busy.
Yeah.
And he works out every day, multiple times per day, and he's like, I cannot have my sweaty clothes just sitting there, and so I throw my clothes in his piles, and magically my clothes get washed more frequently than I would do myself. So it's things like that. Like, I know that he is more inclined to wash more frequently, and so that has kind of turned into his thing. If I'm walking past a pile of clothes, I'm not just going to walk past it, I'll throw it in, but he primarily does it because of the need, given how often he works out. But on the flip side, like I said, I wear my house manager badge when it comes to appointments, birthday parties, you know, what time do they need to be picked up, etc. Like, that is my thing. And it's 100% my thing, right? Even though clothes is probably 90% of his thing. But when we all balance it out, we both feel like we're doing what's important to us. And neither of us are afraid or shy about speaking up and saying, hey, I need you to lean in on this. And so as long as we communicate and all that, it's fine. But it's 50-50, just not in 50-50 on every task. It's 50-50 as a household.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you go on maternity leave and your husband's working, you know, assume all of those duties, the bottle washing if it's needed, the laundry, the dishes, whatever needs to get done. And then, you know, you both go back to work, and it's like, okay, we need to take a step back because now we have to delegate. It's something that, you know, the cooking and the cleaning and everything really has to be shared. And I'm lucky my husband's a great cook. I have never done his laundry. That is not I don't like laundry, so I'm not going to take on his laundry. That's not how we do things. So he does his laundry. No shame to anyone who does their husband's laundry. That's great. But I can't take on more in that manner. And, you know,
Start
he
your
cooks.
laundry in his.
I know, right? I just start doing what you do. That's a good move right there. But no, it's such a balance, and it's a lot of communication. I was finding myself really frustrated, and I had trouble telling him about it for a while. And on top of your postpartum emotions too, I mean, it's a whole nother world when you have these fresh new mom emotions and hormones, and you don't know how to express yourself all the time. And so I would find myself just like huffing and puffing when I'm, you know, once my daughter was in daycare, and I'm pumping all day long at work, and then I get home, and then there's this whole thing of bottles that you have to clean, and then you're having your pump parts. It's a whole system on top of trying to get her to bed and get everything that needs to be done. And I caught myself just doing it and getting frustrated. And finally I was like, no, this isn't working. I need to have a communication with him of, I need you to be taking on this task. And then instantly, you know, he's like, of course, that makes so much sense. It's just if you don't express it, sometimes they don't know. And so once we started talking about the things that I needed help with and the things that were overwhelming me in the house, then, you know, he just takes it on, and he's so much faster at cleaning than I am. I'm like, I'll start cleaning something and I'm like, ooh, and then I want to organize this. And then, you know, you have all these things you're trying to do, and he just does it, and then it's clean. And I'm like, I don't even want to know where you put things. I'll find it later. Just the house looks great. Thank you so much. But no, I think it's just all about communication. And one thing I really wanted to ask everyone here, do y'all have hobbies? I mean, as a mom, it's like, you know, I watch my husband go play tennis and golf, and, you know, I used to think I had hobbies, sort of. Like, I loved working out, and I was more creative. I would do, you know, scrapbooking, things like that. And now I'm like, my hobbies are my daughter. It's like, I don't really know, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I'm curious, have y'all found, like, as your kids have gotten older, do you have your own personal hobbies, or are your hobbies their hobbies?
The piece that has been important to me as I've evolved as a mother is maintaining my friendships outside of my kids. So I've got my mom friends, but I have friends that I've grown up with since high school, college, that I still am very close to. And so if I get a free moment, I'm FaceTiming them and saying, hey, what's going on? Or that is my hobby, maintaining those relationships. It doesn't look like maybe what I imagined, a hobby of picking up tennis or something like that. It doesn't look like that, but it works for me because I get my energy from people and connecting. And so when I find those moments, I take them and nurture those relationships.
And I think I have that too. Like, I love going to the park with a friend, with my baby and my dog. But then sometimes I just think, okay, should I be having hobbies? Is there, you know, people ask you, that's like a common question. What do you like to do for fun? I'm like, I don't know. I go to the park with my daughter. I enjoy the free moments that I can, but I love hearing that, you know, maybe a hobby that you enjoy is not defined as a hobby, but it is, that's what you like to do. I love that.
They say it takes a village to raise a child. What's your village?
We're very lucky, like Haley, to have grown up in Atlanta. We have both sets of grandparents here who are very active in our lives and our kids' lives. They give us the respite that we need. You know, having a child with special needs, just need that time to recharge, and we're so blessed to be able to do that. They give us that ability. And I think something we were missing for a long time, though, was just community and like neighborhood. And so we moved to Woodstock about 3 years ago, and just where we landed has been amazing. Just people that embraced our son. This was during COVID, and within like 5 months, we had a swing put in at the park for children with disabilities so that he could enjoy the park while everybody else was there. And that was just they did that on their own, you know. So just having those people that you can just call, you know, whenever you need them, you know that they would be there. That's been really special and important in our lives.
I do have to agree with you that the social part, if you're not careful, you could get really isolated, you could get really closed into your four walls, right? And also, if you have too many friendships out there, that's not also great either, because you're not investing deeply in every one of those. So I found myself in my 40s kind of trimming that back a bit, and maybe just having those key friendships where I feel like I'm supported, I'm invested in what's going on in their lives, but they also acknowledge the craziness and the chaos of what it is to be my friend when you know that I have to cancel plans if things are crazy. So I think keeping a very small, close-knit, accountable group of people around you as friends has been helpful, but I can't discount how important it has been to have my mom around. My mom is a teacher in Milton, and my sisters live in Alpharetta. I live in Cumming. We're all within about 15 minutes of each other. We're all super close. My dad lives abroad and comes and visits, and we're just very, I don't know, culturally, if because of who we are as a family, it's just very typical of Latin families. You know, like we stay close to each other. We stay home. We've all had opportunities to move away, and we never did. I mean, we could have, but we didn't. so I don't know, there's just a sense of appreciation for knowing that I have a very small group of people that I count on, and I wouldn't change it. It's great.
My whole family is in Detroit, except for my mom, who is disabled, and I actually moved her down here and take care of her. So that's an additional role that not everybody has, but it's one that I wear proudly because I owe that to her. And so when it comes to my village, I had to tap into folks that weren't family. And it was uncomfortable for me because that ask for help gene just wasn't there. I was just like, I'll plow through, I'll figure it out, but I wasn't being successful that way. And so I finally started raising my hand and asking for help. For years, we had some complement of a nanny, and when we had this last baby, we ripped the cord. It sounds crazy, right? You add a child and you get rid of the nanny. But what we found is that it was easier for us to manage because we were in tune and we knew everything. We didn't have to rely on someone else to tell us what happened, what was going on. It has made it more challenging, but we tap into those friends that we feel safe around and we're comfortable with and know how crazy the schedule is. And that has made a world of difference for us.
One thing I did want to say is no one told me how much my let's say village or my circle of friends would change after I had my daughter. I have not been good at maintaining friendships, let's say prior to my daughter, because I was very active. I had a ton of friends. And considering that I've been here in Atlanta for 18 years, all of my family is in Houston. If they're not in Houston, they're in South Louisiana. That's where all of our support is at. So I noticed that here, what was surprising is the people that I associated myself with before my daughter, they kind of faded away because we didn't have anything in common. Because some of them, they were professional women, no kids, and they were just living Atlanta and doing Atlanta, and that's what they were doing. And then here I come, and everybody's like in their late 30s, early 40s with no kids, professionals, and then all of a sudden here I come with this baby, and then she has additional needs as well. But I can say, and I give my hats off to other special needs moms, because when I didn't know I needed support, they stepped up. They pushed their way in. When I was finding myself in dark spaces, especially when my daughter was like medically fragile, these women, I didn't know them. They pushed their way in. They knew I needed the help. So that's been my village. It's been people that I never asked for help, but they just pushed their way in. And their kids, in terms of their special needs, it's just an array of different, not every child, their kids didn't all have Down syndrome. It was just, they were just moms that knew the place that I was in or the type of help that I needed. And they just pushed their way in. I've also had a couple of families that just kind of adopted me and my daughter. And they include us in on holiday events, or sometimes they'll just come to my house and just sit there and just tell me to leave, because they know I need a break and I won't ask for a break. And especially when it comes to advocacy, if you don't have a child with special needs, sometimes you might not know how much time and energy I put into advocating for my daughter, especially within the school system. Preparing for those meetings. Sometimes I'm up all night long, preparing for those meetings to go head to head with the special education director of the school district. And no one really understands that. But some of those parents and those moms, they were there for me. They were already seasoned bulldogs, and they were behind me, and they were there to support me in any and everything that I did. So that these complete strangers have been my village, or my mom friends, because they all have kids.
They become
and
family.
then all my other friends, they're just older now. No kids and still traveling. Oh well. But yeah, it's been it's been a challenge.
Moms are superheroes.
really
Yes, they are. And now that I'm a mom, because when I had my daughter, I was 37. I see moms. I even see my own mother completely different. I see my sisters completely different.
Absolutely.
Some of the things that I used to, let's say, maybe judge my sisters on, it's no more. I was very judgmental. And some of my friends that don't have kids, I can see how I used to be as judgmental as they were. So yeah, I get it now, and it's hard to put into words, but I get it.
I do have to say, I mean, I remember being a young professional and seeing all the moms on our team clock out at 4:30 or 5, and I would say, oh, must be nice. We're here till 6:30 or 7 picking up projects because your kid is sick or because you've got to run off to daycare, have the same jobs, get paid just the same amount, and I'm sitting here doing all of this. I have never been so humbled. I want to apologize to every working mom that I ever judged, because I did not realize that that was the end of their first job and that was the beginning of their most important job. Right?
And they might pick up that other job later
going
at
back
night.
to work
They
at
will,
that time.
and going back to work at that time. And I think that's what I did as a, as a corporate leader in where I was, is I wanted to make sure that people felt that I was going to give them the flexibility, that I was not going to be one of those old school leaders who are like, where are you at 5 o'clock? Because that used to happen to us. As soon as I had a child, there was one time where my boss saw me leave and I had to walk it back into the office. And I was just trying to sneak out to beat 2-hour traffic to get home in time to pick up my kid. I had to pause and just tell you that I get it, and I'm judging way less. I champion everyone who's had a child. I champion them because I don't think that we are walking the same road, but I can tell you that all of us are doing our best. I can't think of one mom that I know that is, for whatever reason, I would think was neglectful or not caring for their children. I mean, motherhood looks so different for all of us, but we're all worrying about the same things. We all feel a little bit of the guilt that we all feel. We all worry about our children.
We all feel like we're not doing enough.
That we're not doing enough. And I thought that me not working was going to get rid of that mom guilt. It doesn't. No. It doesn't.
When I became a mom, I didn't realize the lack of knowledge on, let's say, mental health and how to maintain that. Because, truth be told, my parents, they never kind of told us like the mental struggles that they had as a parent, as a mom, and what they were going through as professionals. But the fact that we're sitting here, we're talking about it, is a part of mental health. And I know as a mom, I'm learning to basically say that, okay, I'm not okay. I'm not okay right now. And by me saying that, other moms can actually reach out and say, okay, you're not okay, but this is how we can help.
I think the beauty in all of this is that as mothers, we're talking about it more, and we're acknowledging the mental health component of being a mother, but our kids are seeing it. And so we're raising kids that are a lot more aware of mental health, and hopefully it's creating a generation that doesn't make the same mistakes that we've made. They'll make their own. They'll be different. But they won't make those mistakes where they're ignoring their mental health for the sake of a job or to keep up an appearance, and they communicate better. And so that's my hope as a parent, that I know I'm making mistakes along the way, but I'm talking about them. I'm a lot more expressive than my parents were, and hope that seed spreads to my kids and makes them that much better.
Thank you for joining us for Uncomfortable Conversations. You can find more episodes like this one inside the 11 Alive Plus streaming app.